Welcome back, YouTubers, to another ROH wrestling review with us, the British Fist.
Ka-ching.
I'm Mr. Parkins, but I think you're wondering who this guy is next to me. You really should know by now that it is MJ.
What's up?
The man with 2 letters for a name, indeed. Subscribe up above, like this video, and put your comments, if indeed you watched this episode of ROH Wrestling, down in that comment section below.
And make sure you contact us in the links in the group box below.
I still can't get the knack of that finger thing you do. You need to teach me. Alright, so we're ROH Wrestling today. We couldn't watch it on Sunday, so we had to watch it on the ROH website when it came up for free on Thursday. So you might end up seeing these reviews from us on Thursday. We don't really know. It just depends when ROH or people can get a file out that we can actually watch, because the files this week were fucking corrupt shit, weren't they?
They were. They kept repeating themselves. Kept repeating themselves. Yeah, exactly. So today we had the first of the next 4 TV tapings from Louisville, Kentucky. Before we go into this, like we did on the first video, what were your thoughts on the environment and stuff? What did you think of it going into it, looking at it? Pretty good. The crowd were pretty much dead, so I didn't like that. The place they actually wrestled, pretty good arena, had what it needed. But I think it was alright. It
did look decent. You know, there were a couple of shots where the lights were very bright, and I think ROH kind of needs to avoid those shots. And some of the camera angles were a bit off in some of the matches, but acceptable, I guess. We have the announcement of Jay Lethal versus Mike Bennett for the TV title, that workhorse title that WWE used to call the IC Championship, kind of reflected in this TV title, that it's going to be defended quite a lot, I imagine, on TV, which I guess makes sense.
I guess so.
We open up with a match. Well, an interview, a backstage segment. But it's nice that ROH are opening up with a match rather than an in-ring segment again, because they were kind of getting a bit annoying. But we got these backstage interviews with TJ Perkins and Mike Mundo.
We did.
To basically making their debuts on TV. What did you think of these backstage segments that we got?
Oh, I was just waiting for the match.
Really?
Yeah.
Weren't interested in these at all?
Not really.
No. Okay. Well, then I'll talk about it for a little bit. We had TJ Perkins basically talking about why ROH is his career highlight and his sacrifices and stuff. Why he's coming into Ring of Honor. I kind of like the fact that he talks about Ring of Honor being a great challenge to him. It kind of makes Ring of Honor sound a little bit better, a little bit more mainstream. And then we get on to Mike Mundo, formerly known as Mickey from the Spirit Squad. And while his character was very, very, very overplayed, I'm kind of glad that they probably only signed him to a temporary deal, even though I feel that Ring of Honor kind of need more guys like him, guys that are just different from your average ROH 200-pound spot monkey, 6 foot, 5'10" wrestlers. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely something different.
Yeah, it was definitely something different. So we get to the match: TJ Perkins versus Mike Mundo. You know, TJ Perkins, like I said, is your typical ROH guy. This was basically done to introduce TJ Perkins, even though the ROH fans probably know who he is because he's been in other things before. They've now signed him permanently, which they kind of need to do because they need to sign more talent. Like, this is just a way of introducing TJ Perkins to the ROH crowd. What did you think to this match?
Nothing special about it. It was pretty slow when I was watching it. It didn't have a really good pace to it, and I was really thinking that I didn't really care who won at the end.
Well, because you couldn't buy into the characters, that kind of thing?
I couldn't buy into it. Their wrestling skills, again, in my opinion, just weren't brilliant. It didn't have like a good flow like I've seen in other matches.
No, I didn't think it was too bad. I didn't think it was terrible, but, you know, Mike Mundo, like I said, is one of those guys that's a little bit different from your average ROH guy, and you kind of need guys like that in ROH, really. You need a bit of variation there. Yeah, I know, let's not go into that, Andrew. That was so silly. The match goes about 7.5 minutes. The match was done really to put TJ Perkins out there to the ROH crowd. I didn't think they did a bad job. They made him get the roll-up win, which in my opinion was a bit stupid, because when I see him for the first time, I want to see his finisher. If I want to buy into this character, I want to be seeing the way he finishes his matches. That would help me buy into his character a little bit more. I don't know too much about TJ Perkins, but that would have helped.
Yeah, the finish was kind of boring. Again, like I said, I won't get into the match, but the ending added more to it, just so I thought it was not done nicely.
All right then, so we go on to the next bit. It looks like ROH are starting to advertise their what they're calling their next pay-per-view, even though they're forgetting that little pay-per-view called Glory by Honor that's coming up sometime in November. It's good that they're finally starting to at least try and hype some pay-per-view, because one of the complaints we did have in that video we did, the ROH video, was that they're not doing too much pay-per-view hype. So we're finally getting some tonight, which in some places was quite long-winded, but at least we're fucking getting some finally.
There was a lot of showing of that, and you had different people announcing it and bringing it up and saying how big it'll be, who'll be wrestling here and there. So I think they did it
a quite good job advertising that.
Yeah. Then we had a segment which usually is at the beginning of the show. In the middle of the show, we had Jim Cornette and the Briscoes in a segment. We see some video footage of the #1 contendership match actually last week, the one that ended in the low blow thing. And you know, Cornette says that All Night Express deserve another chance at the #1 contendership, and next week there'll be a match between the Briscoes and the All Night Express, with a title shot being at Final Battle. You give your thoughts on this segment, what you thought of it.
Let me get my pager out, because I'm going to page a Vince and say, look at TNA, because they have #1 contender matches that we're going to be getting next week to make it exciting. So I'm quite looking forward to that.
Definitely. You know, we had these two fight last week. We're going to have them fight again next week. My only issue is Glory by Honor's coming up. You've got All Night Express versus World's Greatest Tag Team. This segment, this match is kind of going to, one, choreograph the winner of that match, and number two, you know, we've seen this match already a couple of times now, and I just think this doesn't do service to Ladder War 3, which was a gruesome match, which was supposed to kind of end this rivalry. Do you know what I mean? These are some of the issues I'm having with the TV show, some of the continuity issues which I've mentioned on many of the reviews and the video we did analysing the TV shows.
I look back at Ladder War 3, thought it was an exciting match, hoping that was going to bring up something different, something new and something great, but obviously, as we've just seen, it just kind of lost all effect to it.
So with All Night Express getting the title shot against World's Greatest Tag Team at Glory by Honor, it does look like the Briscoes are going to be getting a title shot at Final Battle. I guess it's doing its job, at least giving us some hype to Final Battle, which is going to be December 23rd. Giving us #1 contendership to our tag team title match, which may be needed, even though the #1 contendership is coming before the next pay-per-view, which is a bit stupid. But I guess they've already got #1 contendership there. But I don't know, it's just a bit complicated. Complicates things a little bit, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
What did you think of the Briscoes in this segment on the mic?
Take away their mic skills.
Man up! Man up! Yeah. They're quite an intense tag team, aren't they, the Briscoes? Which is one of the reasons why I do like these guys. But anyway, so that segment, what did you think of that segment overall, NJ? You know, what it did?
Effective. It got their point across. They had their enough time on mic, even though one of them only got to speak.
He is the better mic talker, I think.
But still, yeah. And then obviously it's just done its job. That's what I say.
So we got Final Battle being hyped up. We got a main event for next week announced. I really wish they'd put someone else out there other than the Briscoes, like maybe to give the All Night Express some mic time or something like that. You know, we've seen Briscoes now in a couple of segments, and we haven't really seen enough of the tag team champions, who are World's Greatest Tag Team.
That was a good thing. We had them in the ring doing their business, and then we had World's Greatest Tag Team having theirs done, who they want to face and why. And I thought it was a nice follow-on.
Same here.
Because you've seen Briscoe brothers, good. We need to see them because they're contenders. And we have to see the World's Greatest Tag Team, which were there, so I thought it was nicely done there.
I do think you need to do that because you need to hype up a feud between the two. I did enjoy how they had their comments afterwards. You know, they talk about how they want the Briscoes, they don't want All Night Express, and they want the Briscoes to win because they want to fight them. Kind of intensifies this feud a little bit. A match which we got at the 9th anniversary show earlier this year even, should be a good match at Final Battle. It's the match I'm definitely expecting, to be honest. We then had an Inside ROH segment. Now, this segment went on for fucking ages, didn't it? It's basically them beginning their hype for Final Battle. It's just, I wonder why they have Roderick Strong in this segment, because his mic skills suck. Just why do they have him in a segment? The first segment you have about Final Battle is Roderick Strong. Why is he the first person we see? Really?
Yeah, he did have quite a lot of mic time during this segment, this video package. And you had these other one, you had the book guy.
Truth Martini, yeah.
Truth Martini taking his part. It was good. So I think it was nicely done. They had their say. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. They did issue something called the Strong Invitational Challenge, which I'm guessing will be done at Final Battle. It's some kind of attraction to Final Battle. They also announced next week that it's going to be Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly. I'm guessing that'll be the first match we get. I do look forward to that match, because I do think these two will go very well in the ring. We then got a bit of Davey Richards. Now, let's face it, he is the face of the company. He is the champion. We need to hear from Davey Richards. The only trouble is, I just can't buy into him. I really can't. I want to. I think he's a great wrestler. But the way he talks on the mic, I just can't buy into him as much as I want to. Do you know what I mean?
When I look at him, I think, to be honest, the thing that got me more into his part of the segment was as if he appeared more on other shows.
Yeah.
Maybe had...
In-ring segments.
But just the fact they gave us this out of nowhere sort of thing.
Yeah.
Had this little bit of say, I just thought, I don't really care.
You do need to parade your ROH World Champion in an in-ring segment at some point, ROH. It is kind of essential that people see who your ROH World Champion is. unless you don't have confidence with him in an in-ring segment, in which case, why did you make him your champion? But this segment did go on for a long time. They've advertised Final Battle. It'll be on December the 23rd on iPay-per-view for $14.95. It's good initial. I hope that they continue this going, because they've now got 2 months of TV time. So let's hope they continue probably better and less long-winded hype going into Final Battle, and then they can see the results of what their TV show is giving their iPay-per-view buys.
It would be needed because they do wonder how we're feeling about their pay-per-view and TV series. So they do expect us to give our say.
The only trouble is ROH. You've got another pay-per-view coming up called Glory by Honor 10. Do you not want to advertise that? Maybe I kind of want to buy into that pay-per-view a little bit, but whatever. Doing the same thing as they did with the Death Before the Sonic 9 one, but. Yeah, so that segment, it did drag on a little while, which I kind of lost my interest in it a little bit because you have Roderick Strong and David Richards, and they're just not very good on the mic, or they're not very good in backstage. Why don't we just get some live backstage segments? To make the show feel a little bit more live, some backstage segments, for God's sake.
It could have, because as well as this long inside ROH, we had lots of their website advertisement. It just made this segment even more interesting than the rest of the show. But
if you guys don't know already, it's www.rohwrestling.com. This is where we watch the TV show today. So yes. So shall we move on from that segment? Go on to some wrestling, eh?
Here we go.
So that is what ROH. That's one of the reasons we watch ROH. We had Jay Lethal versus Mike Bennett in a TV title match. This is interesting because we've already seen Lethal win the TV title. We've already seen the introduction to Mike Bennett. So we've already seen their characters. And I thought it was going to be interesting how this match played out because we didn't need any video packages for this because we'd already kind of bought into the characters from previous video segments. And it was nice to see how this would be portrayed in an actual match which didn't really have too much hype. But they did have a pre-video segment, didn't they? They showed Jay Lethal winning the title. And I just wish they'd do some backstage interviews to make it feel more live. Give Bennett a mic or give Jay Lethal a mic backstage just to make it feel a little bit more live because it feels very taped, doesn't it?
Yeah, what I would have done is probably had Jay Lethal, when he comes to the ring, him have his say on the mic first, and then out comes Mike Bennett. Something like that, just to flow the match into something important.
It would make the show flow a little bit better like that, wouldn't it? Kind of like you see on mainstream TV with Miz and Truth, for example. But Jay Lethal versus Mike Bennett for the TV title. What did you think to this match? It went 15 minutes, which was the time limit, by the way. 15-minute time limit. Just give me your thoughts on the match itself.
Okay.
Any thoughts you have on the segment?
The match itself, it was better than the first one by far. I got more into this one. It had good moments in the match that actually made the match interesting to watch. And I'm going to say that, again, they showed off their skill pretty well, both of them. But then, obviously, it came towards the ending, and I just thought, oh.
We had 50 minutes. And ROH had this really weird fetish with time limit draws. Sometimes time limit draws are effective, ROH, but then the trouble is, on TV, it's kind of very underwhelming. Why can't you do something like a disqualification finish or something like that? It'll just be better than a time limit draw. My opinion on the match is, like NJ said, it was definitely better than the first match. It got a lot more time. I do enjoy Jay Lethal's work. Mike Bennett, a lot of ROH guys hate him because he's not an ROH-style wrestler, but let's face it, ROH fans, you need some variety in your product. Mike Bennett is the kind of guy that can deliver that because he's more of a sports entertainer guy rather than a wrestler, and you can't always stick to wrestling. You need something a bit more than that to enhance your product a little bit. So, it was a good match. I enjoyed it. Jay Lethal retains. The finish was a bit weak, like you said. Bennett, time limit draw, and then Bennett just walks away. It might set up something between them in the future, which might be interesting, and they beat down on each other a little bit as well to show some intensity there. So maybe, do you think this shows something do you think this will mean that there's something that will be happening between them two later on, maybe? Or
if they start working on it instead of having odd segments here and there, I think these could have something coming up in the next few weeks.
Would you want to see it though? That's the thing.
Big neck Mike Bennett, if I want to see him again, I'm not that interested in it, but I do want to see more of Jay Lethal.
Okay then. Your overall thoughts on today's show then? Your overall thoughts?
Again, at the beginning, I'm going to give it this. It did look like it was having a nice flow, and then all the video packages came and all the website came in, and I started to lose interest. I thought, too much of this, too much of this, too much of this. Just get to a match. Maybe like a bit all along. Third match instead of all these video packages. Get to the point of who you're at the last part of the show. Concentrate on who the main ROH stars are.
Yeah.
Give them time on mic or video packages or backstage stuff. That would make it more interesting. But overall, I just didn't find this the best show.
For me, you got some hype there for Final Battle, which is kind of needed this time, 2 months before one of your biggest iPay-per-view of the year. The main event was good, but even though the finish was weak, like Angie said, some of the video packages did go on for a long time, which kind of does ruin the flow of the show. Kind of similar to that intermission you have during your iPay-per-views, ROH. It was nice to hear from the Briscoes and the World's Greatest Tag Team develop their feud a little bit. It kind of shows ROH concentrating a little bit more on story and a bit less on wrestling, even though the segment itself wasn't the greatest. But World's Greatest Tag Team, but there we go. The show overall, it just didn't have a great flow to it. The opener, like you said, was a bit underwhelming because we didn't really know who these two guys were. Even though the video packages were a lot shorter than the video package was short enough to be effective, the match was just a little bit underwhelming because we didn't really know who these guys were. But to ROH trying to give us some new guys, I guess, just not in the best way, in my opinion. Do you want to do any more thoughts before we leave? Or?
No, I just hope the next one's better than this.
Not the best show.
Because it did give us matches announced, which is something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But again, it just wasn't the best show for me.
With the matches announced for next week, I do look forward to next week's show. And it is good that they did announce the matches. One thing we failed to pick up on here. But it's good that they announced the matches. I do look forward to next week's show. This show wasn't the best show, in my opinion. I still think one of the best shows, the first one, the tag team show, was awesome, I thought. But do you want to give it a grade? You know, now we're into the sort of later stage. Would you want to grade it now, or do you think it's saved at a later date?
I think as they're still new and they're still trying to get into it and try and put improvements, I think I'll wait just to see if they kickstart.
Well, I'll grade it when you grade it. So
that's fine.
All right then. So that's been it from us, the British Fist,
giving
us our thoughts on the ROH TV show, which you can watch on ROHWrestling.com every Thursday. You're a free member. That's when we have to watch it now, I think.
And sadly, yes, we said we would have done this review before, like other people have. Obviously, the streaming was absolutely rubbish. But anyway, you've heard this review from the British Fist, and that is Mr. Parkins and NJ. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.